What's going on, everybody? Welcome to our 13th episode of Shaws and Kings. Can't believe we actually made this many episodes. It's your boy Shaheen out here with Farnoosh and Keith. And,
Lucky
I
number
actually,
13.
lucky number, yeah. I don't know if it's lucky, but, so I, when I woke up today, I wasn't really expecting to talk about something like this because I didn't think it would happen like the way it did. But, I thought we'd have a completely different topic, but today I guess we're gonna be talking about what happened in Washington D.C. today, and if you really, and for those of you who've been listening since like our first episode, or if you listen to some of this our other episodes, I feel like everything that we ever talked about all kind of led up to this moment, right? We talked about social media and how it's basically a cancer to our democracy because social media is the reason, a very big reason why all the terrorists who attacked DC today, like in Congress, like the
No,
reason.
bro, they were patriots. Come on, man.
No, they were not. Nah, they weren't. And uh, but anyway,
Oh shit.
um, no, they were they were not
Had to
at
go
all.
there.
Yeah, but
I'm just using. I'm just seeing. The shit. They're like those kind of people are posting. It's pretty funny
yeah,
No,
they're
no,
how
no.
they're viewing it versus you know, the
Like
reality of it.
you're absolutely right. I know it's a joke, but seriously, that's exactly what's happening here. So again,
and
it
that's
just has
because
to
of
do
social
with
media. Again,
perspective of what side you're on. Yeah.
Yep.
dude, those fucking clowns who did that today, like their social media feeds, um, like it's not like people like us. It's more like other clowns who believe in what they believe in. So like in their world, in their weird reality, they believe that what they did is like patriotic and heroic. Like, and in their world,
Yeah.
they think they did
They
the
they
right thing.
defended democracy by doing that today. That's
Yeah.
what they.
I mean,
That's
obviously they
what
all
they'd say.
deserve. I mean, obviously they don't like. I prefer to see him in a firing squad and get that. But
Whoa,
uh,
whoa,
well,
whoa.
I mean, like like I don't care, bro. Like, listen, like. Maybe not firing squad because I don't believe in the death penalty. We talked about that on episode 3. I think it was episode 3. But I don't know, like one Trump MAGA supporter who broke into the fucking Capitol got shot in the neck, and I'm pretty pumped about it. And I mean, at the end of the day, like I don't give a fuck. Like if it was because if it was like George Floyd, like, oh, they shouldn't have been like like those comments on Twitter where it's like, oh, this person shouldn't have been resisting. How well now he deserved to die. Well, that's now I'm gonna like return the favor. Like this bitch fucking like tried to like commit a terrorist act, storm the Capitol, got shot in the neck, and now she will never vote Republican again. I think it's a beautiful thing. So fuck her.
Shots fired, no pun intended.
So
Oh
fuck
shit.
her. And anyway, so listen, everything that we talked about in this podcast, it all leads up to this day. Why? We had an episode about gun rights, and like the idea was like you're supposed to when the supposedly like you're supposed to fight government tyranny, right? Like that's like the argument. But where were these fucking pussies? You know what I mean? Like, oh, like like if you're really a patriot, like if you're really like standing up for these institutions that you pretend to care about so much, like you would have been defending the police that you pretend to care about when you have the Blue Lives Matter flag, right? Like what kind of
Mm.
irony? Like you're marching on the Capitol with a Blue Lives Matter flag, beating police with it. Did you see that shit? Like they're like
Yeah.
literally hitting back at the cops with the Blue Lives Matter flag. It was like layers of irony.
Well, there
Well, the
was
whole
Um,
the
MAGA.
whole the whole thing with the Blue Lives Matter flag, that's just them virtue signaling. They don't actually give a shit about that. Unless it's helping their agenda. Like they don't
unless
really
they're
give a
helping
fuck.
their agenda,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
Exactly.
there were some MAGA people taking some photos with the cops. So
I did
I
see
did,
some of that too, yeah. Yeah.
dude. That
So
that 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 to me,
really
like, dude, that to me is
that
like those cops should immediately be fired and jailed.
that's
Like
disgusting on the other side of the fence. Yeah, that's like on the other side of the spectrum. That's also disgusting. So
yeah.
yeah.
I feel it.
It's like, oh yeah, guys, you can completely destroy this fucking government building. Yeah, that's fine. Take a selfie with me. Yeah, sure.
All
Yo,
right, let's take
Are
a
you
selfie.
are you fucking
I
kidding me?
literally saw a video of a cop opening those barricades so the protesters can get through. Well, I'm
Yeah.
not gonna call them protests. I'm not
I,
gonna
s-
call them
I
protesters.
yeah, I
But
saw a
yeah,
video of a guy asking like before they let him in. It was like a guy knocking and be like, "Can you let us in?" It was like, you're fucking rioting right now. What you're a dumbass. Like, you're politely asking to be let in. Like,
Yo, I just I can't say I'm surprised. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, cause I know for like these cops, like, where the fuck were they? Yo, I was expecting clouds and clouds of tear gas, fucking like, fucking like Trump supporters on the ground, zip tied or whatever. None of that. There were only 15 arrests today,
yeah.
and
Well,
it was
the mayor of, I think it
DC.
was the mayor of DC, specifically, there was some order that I heard about, like, because this was like a planned event, kind of. I
Yeah,
get apparently, um, there was a plan to, like, yeah, have like National Guard and police there, but they weren't actually supposed to do anything. Kind of, it was like a weird thing I heard about where it's like, I don't even fucking remember the exact thing. I might be like wrong about that, honestly. But
Well,
there was
there
like
has to be.
there was some strange order where it was like they're supposed to be there to keep order, but they're not actually going to stop anything.
I mean, there has to
It
be
was like,
some protocol at some point, that says that goes from where things get peaceful, go from peaceful protesting, no matter what your beliefs are, to like
right.
utter violence. And I heard
yeah,
from what was going on that when it reached the point of violence, even when they were being breached, like the halls of Congress were being breached, so to speak,
mhm.
that Trump did not want to call the National Guard. He did not want to call anything to break it up. It ended up being Mike Pence that called them in to go ahead and have the mob disperse, which is kind of sickening to me that we actually had a president that condoned property destruction, violence, and other forms of just pure disgusting behavior. So
Yeah, and potentially endangering members of Congress who were there, like
Yeah,
who the people elected.
right.
Like, yeah, it's total bullshit. And Trump's response to it was total bullshit. It's like,
He like
thanks for coming out and supporting me. You know that I was the real winner, but like, it was like, what the fuck are you talking? Like,
he even said I love you.
yeah, he
Like,
said,
yo,
yeah,
yeah,
who
yeah,
the fuck says I love you to people who just like raided the U.S. Capitol?
yeah,
You're like, yo, like
yeah,
you're not mentally. This dude is like, I mean, I sometimes like I always have like these back and forth debates in my head. Like, is Trump like a Machiavellian, like very calculated guy, or is he actually like this moronic? And I honestly, it goes back and forth. Like I don't know. Like maybe I mean like maybe he's a moron, but the reason why he got elected was because most of the country are morons too, so it works.
mhm,
Or maybe he's just like very 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 calculated, and but at the same time, like he lost the election, uh, by a lot, you know.
yeah.
And I don't know if he genuinely believes if he won in a landslide. Like I don't know, like do you think Trump actually thinks he won, or do you think he's just like saying this because that's like part of his brand, is to like fuel this alternative reality that exists somewhere, and then if he chooses to run in 4 years, he won't be seen as this guy who surrendered.
Well, I think that's the whole point. It's so he can run again at some point and not lose face in the eyes of his supporters. Like now, obviously
Yeah,
he's lost face in the eyes of the country. Otherwise, we would have elected him again. But he was a fucking terrible president. As far as like actually being a president, he was terrible at his job for the most part. There were a few things he did, but you could argue that like that was mostly people in his cabinet that did the good shit, and he was just kind of like there.
took
Um,
credit, like the COVID shit, like the vaccines, like
well,
Operation Warp
vaccines,
Speed.
the like different like treaties that were signed with like Israel and different Muslim countries and places in Africa. There was different trade deals and shit like that. He was tougher on China, but like he didn't really do many good things like
I don't think
that
he's
like
really
are
done any
objectively
like
good.
he hasn't done good things that will leave like a lasting like I don't think like in 20 or 30 years we're gonna look back at Trump's administration and be like, yo, like thank God he did this like 30 years ago.
Right.
Otherwise,
Yeah,
like it would
we're
have
not
been
going to
here
look at him
today.
like we look at George W. Bush now. Like, oh, I'd rather have him again. Like, I don't think
Yeah.
anyone's going to look back in like 15 years
No,
and be like,
dude,
I
yo,
wish we had Trump
don't say
back. Nobody's
Dude,
gonna fucking say that.
dude, we thought, dude, we thought that about George Bush. You know, like we thought that about George Bush. We're like, yo, like America can't stoop lower than George Bush, and we were wrong.
But we
Like,
can.
we so dude, like, and here's the thing, right? Like, okay, like Trump's leaving office in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But those thousands of you know, whatever you want to call them, like they're not gonna, like, you know, there's no Thanos snap. They're not gonna die. They're not gonna go away. There's still a threat to our democracy and humanity overall. So
Yeah. And
uh
the next time some kind of like an actual effective leader who is a similar style to Trump tries doing shit, those are the same people who are going to follow them.
yeah, like they have a blueprint.
Because
That's
he
the
has
thing
the,
now. Like,
even though Trump is kind of like, you know, he's kind of a fat fuck, he was charismatic enough and had enough of the like typical like political strongman personality that
yeah,
those kind of people who are into that shit were going to follow him basically no matter what he did. Right.
yeah,
And the thing is, those kind of people are still going to be here. Like,
they're
I mean,
still gonna, yeah,
they're in every country right around the world, but
yeah.
like those people are still going to be here. And if there's somebody who's actually like not a complete dumbass who uses the same strategy, that could happen again, and
But
in a
you know
worse
what's
way.
but you know what's interesting though is that, like, there's a lot of Republicans, like, who try to run with a Trumpian style. Like, you know, they've embraced, like, openly embrace his authoritarian tactics and his racism, these QAnon conspiracy theories.
Mm.
And an overwhelmingly majority of Republicans who try that tactic lose. Um, like in Georgia yesterday, like Kelly Loeffler, like, you know, she was a QAnon embracing, like, you know, she was all, you know, all the crazy shit that comes with being a Trump supporter. Like, she was all that, and she lost. She lost Georgia, you know.
Yeah.
Same with David Perdue. Same with, like, a lot of, I mean, like, a lot of these, um like Republicans who lost during these last 2 years. And it makes me wonder, like, is, you know, like, I don't know if these Trump supporters are more attached to, like, the ideology or of just like him as a person. Because again, like, first of all, like, Trump has broken, like, I would say, like, majority of his, like, promises. Uh he didn't really, I mean, like, the wall is kind of a joke. Like, you know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? Like, it was so obvious, like, what he was doing. But I feel like to them it's like they just have, like, this weird religious attachment to the man.
Well, look,
Yeah.
it's a little bit
It's a
of
cult of
both.
personality.
It is a cult of
Yeah.
personality. It's a little bit of both because, in terms of, okay, so Trump by and far lost the election. I mean, we've established that
Mhm.
by now. But in his mind, even though he lost the election, he's not looking at it from. I can tell by the way he's approached things, he's not looking at it as that being the entire war. He's looking at it as this being the battle. Again, he is already talked about running in the next election in 2024. He's
Yeah.
already mentioned before he left office several months ago that he would not leave peacefully. So he
Mhm.
anticipated that this might happen. It isn't just something he woke up one day and said, "Oh, I'm losing the election. I'm going to contest it." He sensed this before. He probably, it's weird. Like, you go back to the Machiavellian comparison. It's weird. It's almost like he anticipated this might happen and said, "Okay, let's flip to Plan B," because, like you said, these people are not going to go anywhere. And my fear is that these people, even though they know that the election is lost, he's now still appealing to them and still rallying under a cause that there was injustice undone within their eyes, and that he's still trying to build that rallying support that come the next election, if the Democrats sway one way or the other, that he gets to say, "See, guys, I told you so.
Mm.
Now let's rally up again and put me back where I belong."
Right.
And
Yeah.
as far as the cult of personality goes, it's like, if you look at Trump and you look at most evil dictators, and I can say easily say evil because most dictators don't tend to be very good people. or have their best interest, the best interest of the people in mind, they embody the same qualities that Trump does. Like you said, other Republicans have run trying to use this strategy, but he does have this charisma to him. He does have this cult of personality, and he has this way of appealing to what would I dare you, I loosely use this term, but disenfranchised group. The group of people he's speaking to feel like they're disenfranchised, just like the people that joined the Nazi party in Nazi Germany during Hitler's rise, joined the Nazi party. They felt like the country was not doing right by them. Trump supporters, the MAGA followers, they all feel like the Democratic Party has wronged them to the point where they almost fanatically will follow somebody that they feel is strong enough and embodies their beliefs enough to go ahead and possibly bring about change. And somehow, I don't know why, because like you said, I don't think he brought any real positive changes here. They still believe that he changed things for the better and that he still can. So that's what
To
confuses the fuck out of
I
me.
think to them it's more like Trump is a symbol, and I think with them it's more like I don't know if they really have any ideology. To them, it's more like they hate liberals, right? Like they hate liberals more than anything, and to them, like Trump is like the antithesis, right? So, um, I
Yeah.
think that's I think that's like a part of it. And you're right, like Trump does have this fascist weird persona to him. Just like the way he walks, the way he carries his body, the long coats, long ass like pea coats. See what you know what I'm talking about? Like he'll literally carry himself like he's fucking like Mussolini, like this fake straw man like beta male personality he
If
has.
we were talking about
And
hip hop terms, he'd have the perfect stage presence.
yeah,
He captures his audience. He through his mannerisms and the way he inflects his speech. It's like a whole package. The same way that I hate comparing it to an art that I love, but unfortunately they do have similarities. The same way that an artist gets on stage and rocks the mic and captivates a crowd to the point where they're the center of attention. Trump just has the ability to do that. Whether it's regardless if it's in a negative light, he still has those qualities. It's scary.
yeah. Um
Yeah,
and
there's some weird stuff with that. Like this country has a really fucking weird concept of the political compass and like what associates like different things with a certain ideology. Like or people have their own personal political compass that's completely different from like what you would learn in like a civics class basically.
they just kind of make it up.
So, yeah. So, people who are MAGA supporters, liberals to them, they see them as like the next coming of Stalin. It's like that's not what liberals are not the same thing as communists. Like they're not the same thing in the same way that when like some people call conservatives Nazis, like most conservatives are not fascists or far right even. Like it's all disingenuous bullshit, but then we don't have well, there's a few things. We have social media, which perpetuates basically all the negatives of everyone. You have media that is not honest anymore in a lot of ways. It's either tends to be biased or it's, the same people own Fox, who own CNN, who own XYZ, and they can all peddle different narratives to everyone according to their own, like, what they think will fuel the most shit, right? So we have a problem with knowing what's true, like
Yeah.
which facts are real facts, which is fucking weird.
Which world is the
Um,
real world we live in?
yeah, which world is the real? Yeah, exactly. Which world is the real world? It's making your fellow countrymen look like your enemy, which is never fucking good, regardless if it's an election year or not. Like,
Yeah.
if these are the same people. If we got invaded, we'd be fighting side by side with, but you fucking hate them. Or like if there's a speech, or no, sorry, not a speech. Ronald Reagan, when he met with, I think it was Gorbachev, um, in like 1988, before the fall of the Soviet Union, you know, they were talking. There was a lot of escalation and talks of nuclear war. Right, it was like the late 80s. They had a private conversation where Ronald Reagan asked Gorbachev, if the United States was invaded by an alien force, would the Soviet Union come to our aid? And Gorbachev said yes. He said, I feel the same way. And after that conversation, the tensions between our two countries like dissolved almost overnight because it was finally there was some fucking perspective for once about like shit that actually matters on Earth. Like um we do not fucking have that right now at all. And it's kind of disgusting in a lot of ways.
But yo, because you mentioned like the CNN, Fox, and the two people like two sides hating each other, and I think we talked about this I'm sure we brought this up in many episodes. I think we even talked about it with Jasmine on our feminist episode, but I sometimes I think there's an issue with this both sidesism thing that we tend to like throw around, where it's like these both sides can't agree, like these both sides are like equally I don't think it's both sides. I mean, don't get me wrong, I mean, like, sure, like CNN or MSNBC, like they might like exaggerate, they might, or yeah, they are sensationalists, so they're going to try to do things to get you hooked on the news, because I mean, it's a private news organization, like they get paid the longer you watch, right? That's just, unfortunately, like that's just the way it works. No matter what news source there is, left or right, if it's privately owned, which I'm for, by the way, like private,
Yeah.
like, yeah, the only way they're going to like survive is by like having, like by people going onto their website, and they get paid either through subscriptions or advertisements on the website.
Mm-hmm.
So same with social media. So yeah, I mean, fine, like that might be something that's like on both sides, but at the end of the day, the conspiracy theories are like fueled by one side. uh the alternative reality, the Steve Bannons of the world, that's just like one side. Like, you can say what you want about Sean King, like you can disagree, you can disagree with him, but like he's not in a different planet. Like you can disagree with what he stands for, and like, or maybe some of the numbers he throws at you, and like sometimes I support like a majority of the things Sean King says. Sometimes I think he's a sometimes I don't, but I respect him because he lives in my like we, at least, like, we're in the same reality, and like I can objectively disagree with you and not hate you. But when you're like, I feel like when you're just going around fueling these like things that are just wrong, that on purpose, and it, that's just, to me, that's just coming on one side.
So are we going to ignore people who on the left who say that like everyone who's right to them are Nazis or fascists? Is that a real reality?
No, that's not a real reality. But I just think like that's so far like if you go on like CNN, like you won't ever hear like Chris Cuomo saying something like that. Like or you won't ever hear anyone on like CNN or MSNBC like ever like accuse like anyone who's on the right of me of fascist. Like, that's on Twitter. Like that's like that
Mm-hmm.
shit you'll find on Twitter. But if you go on Fox News, like they literally say, like they're like they literally call the Democratic Party like America's Communist Party. These are the like Fox, like a national news network, was the same network that tried to push this agenda that Obama was born in Kenya. And that
Mm-hmm.
he's like a Muslim who's like, so like, yes, like yeah, there are like annoying people on liberal, like on liberal Twitter. I've had my beef with liberal Twitter. Like they like, like I've had people on the woke side who try to cancel me because I put a verse out making fun of like how superficial some women are in my community.
Mm-hmm.
So I've had my run with these people, but I think collectively, like like that's that reality, like the talk. I mean, we could do some things better, and I don't have it like, I'm for that, but I think that danger, like a 99.9% of the danger, just comes from the other side. Again, like if you're like Mitt Romney, cool. right? Like I like objectively like disagree with Mitt Romney on like 95 to like 98% of the issues, but like like I don't think he's a fascist. And neither does CNN or MSNBC or like or the New York Times or PBS or like well PBS isn't even liberal, so, but like you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So and we also have to stop calling unbiased news networks liberal. Like I like like I hate that. Like because like nowadays it's like honest fact reporting. Like on it like if it's snowing today and I'm like yeah it's snowing in Connecticut today, you're like yo that's the liberal news media telling you it's snowing. It's fake
Right.
news.
But I mean, part of that is because with social media, there's no more investigative journalism anymore. So the way that the news is done is more like commentary than it is about like actual investigations of things. So the way we're fed information is different than it used to be. Like, obviously, that example, like, it's snowing today. No, it's not. Like, fucking look outside. Like, that's
Yeah.
more clear cut and dry. But when you have shit that's more nuanced than that, you're not going to get a good source from the media. That's why, like, I listen to independent journalists more than I do to, like, I don't even watch CNN or Fox or any of them really. Like,
Yeah.
I'll look at independent journalists online who
Yeah.
are like on the ground, like doing shit.
The my fear with that again, like there's nothing like it's actually very noble to like to say like hey I'm doing like independent like news reporting and stuff.
Oh, it can
uh
still be biased 100% though. I mean,
but
I'm not going to deny that, but it's
but
more honest in the sense that it's like directly there.
right it's just reporting, but
Yeah.
on the other hand I'll see a trend where it's these right wingers who pretend they're unbiased. Like it's they're outright like they're like I'm just this is just an unbiased like I'm just reporting the facts. And then like you go on their Twitter page and they're only criticizing the left. Only like they never say
Mm.
one thing like and then like there's like this one like Muslim dude in the UK like a journalist who like he likes to I don't I forgot his name but like he likes to pretend that he's like a centrist. He's just reporting the facts, so I'm not taking any sides, but he's always like uh he's giving like validity to like this election fraud stuff. Like Trump's like
Is
oh
that
the election.
Imam Tawidi?
No, I think his name is like Majid.
Oh,
um
okay. Because the guy I'm thinking of, he's I think he's from Australia, but the only reason like he talks to conservatives more only because generally he gets like a lot of shit from like the liberal like pro Islam Twitter. So like
yeah,
it's a different. I mean that's a different thing, but
I think I know who you're talking about.
yeah, I don't know who Majid is though. I haven't heard of him.
Majid or Majan. I
Majid.
don't know, but he. So I mean, but he's not the only one. Like there's like this rapper. He's like this white dude with like super long hair, and like he used to. He's like I'm just doing independent investigative journalism, but then has like a song like he puts out a song called I Like Trump. So and then
Yeah.
yeah, and then he like like he's like on Twitter like complaining because now Trump isn't far right wing enough for him. Like he's complaining, like like yo, like both the Democrats and Republicans are for this vaccine. They're both trying to do mandatory masks.
Yeah. Now
Like
they're all communists, and I'm the only real like moderate, right? Is
no,
that
he said that he's
what
basically said the Republican Party have succumbed to democratic communism and like including Trump.
yeah,
And this guy is supposed to be like the moderate and centrist. So
yeah. I mean, the only thing I can say as far as like, I mean, I don't think it's like 99% right, only because I mean, I view the political spectrum possibly a little differently than you do. Like, I generally view it in more of a sense of like, you're either pro individual freedom or you're pro state oversight of everything. So like when I tend to criticize the left more because they tend to be more for government oversight that I feel like is overreaching. But by doing that, that doesn't mean I'm necessarily supporting the right either. In like because the right can also be for government oversight just for different reasons.
Yeah. Well, from one perspective, you would be able to look at any news that's put out, and you would say to a certain level that no matter what news someone puts out, unless it's totally factual, completely factual that you can see that the snow is falling, is somewhat biased. No matter whether it's coming from Twitter or whether it's coming from a news network, because at the end of the day, they're a group of people that, for the most part, are either independently putting out news, or in the case of like Fox or other networks, they are owned by certain groups with a certain agenda, and they're all trying to get their point across. The issue is that we live in an age of disinformation, in my humble opinion. And when you're talking about disinformation, it's before, when you wanted a group of people to remain subservient and dependent, you would deprive them of information. You would deprive them of a level of education, as like kings did before. They didn't want people to read or write, or whether or learn. I shouldn't say kings, because we're all kings now. We're representing kings, but anyway,
Well, it's
so
like when the ancient Egyptians, when they had the pyramid builders, they would feed them a gruel that was basically like a beer, so they would be drunk at night and they wouldn't revolt.
right
They would basically work
now,
them all day and get them drunk. It was like,
yeah, and this is a level of exactly that. Now,
Mhm.
instead of, we've reached a different age, a new era of deception, in a sense, or persuasion, or however you want to view it. Because now, as they did, they fed them a gruel in Egypt that made them drunk. We feed them information, but now we feed them information that whatever the network or the group or agenda, Twitter, whatever, that we want them to. So they believe they're actually getting info that is benefiting them or educating them and how things work in a certain way, when in reality it's actually twisting their perception on how things actually work.
Mhm.
And that's why we have, on both sides of the spectrum, be it the left or the right, both sides that have their level of fanaticism. We've gotten to a point where people have a hard time discerning what information is actually factual and what's bullshit, really, or what's
Mhm.
exaggerated. And when you get to a point where you can't take things with a grain of salt anymore, you're taking everything that's literal, and you're being bombarded with it, um with the platforms of media, what we have, be it like social or Twitter or on TV or whatnot. Like, it's like repeating propaganda again, from the perspective of a dictator. Repeat something enough, the people will believe it, especially if it's appealing to a disenfranchised need within those people. So it's
Right.
that's a problem. That's a problem that I see it. That's just my humble opinion.
Yeah. And I was listening to it was Dan Carlin's Hardcore History podcast addendum on it was Hardcore History on Fire is the name of the episode if anyone wants to look it up after this. But it's Dan Carlin, and if you haven't heard about him, he has a lot of history podcasts. He's talking to a guy from Italy. I don't remember his name, but they were basically discussing like how the political spectrum has changed in like different countries and especially the United States, and how different views have changed. And they were talking about how in the 1940s, like what the Republicans were talking about and like conservatives were talking about would be considered like what Bernie Sanders is talking about now almost. Like in the 1940s in America, like conservatives were talking about welfare programs. And now if you bring that up to some certain conservatives, you'll be labeled as, fucking
Stalin.
Stalin. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like there was something happened. I don't they explained it better than I can because I don't remember the exact wording of it, but basically there was a certain shift that happened in the Republican Party where they were right of the liberals obviously, but like they went even further right at a certain point than they had ever really been before in this country, and now it's like seen as like a set point
I
for
think
our
that kind of
politics.
started. I believe, like, if I'm not mistaken, that started with. I mean, like, Reagan really kicked that off, but that was I
Yeah,
think
it
that
was
was really.
before Reagan though. It was like
But
Barry
I think it was like
Goldwater, I think, something like that.
I think he like started the ideology, but I think it was Nixon that really like fueled it.
Hmm.
Like I
Yeah.
think like a lot of these like core weird conservative beliefs that like super conservative beliefs that you hear today um probably stem from like Goldwater and Nixon.
Mhm.
Because even Eisenhower had like was big on welfare programs, I believe.
Yeah.
And even during Eisenhower, I think like the richest people paid like a 70% tax rate, and that wasn't like controversial at the time.
No.
So yeah,
Yeah, we can talk about shit Reagan did that's still, affecting our country
yeah.
all day
And
if we
remember,
wanted
like,
to.
Reagan, Nixon, all of them.
Yeah.
I am not a crook.
Yeah.
yeah,
The only good stuff Reagan really did was surrounding like ending the Cold War kind of, but aside from that, in terms of like policy, especially when it comes to you know, trickle down economics and
The failed war on drugs,
yeah, the war on
Operation
drugs.
Star Wars,
Oh
you
Jesus.
name it.
the Iran
the,
Contra,
the trillions of
Yeah.
dollars in debt that we're in right now, thanks to Ronald Reagan. I don't want to get started
Mhm.
on Reaganomics. We'll be
Yeah.
here a whole other episode, and it's
Oh,
at
yeah.
this point it's kind of irrelevant. So
I
I'd
would
rather
I would
Yeah.
argue. I mean, here's the thing. I think before Trump came in office, I really thought that Reagan was the worst president we've ever had. Worse than Bush, and both
Mhm.
worse than both of the Bushes. And the only reason why I think Trump is worse than Reagan is because Trump successfully divided people. Where like Reagan was just a bad person, whereas in Trump kind of um, successfully like pit us against each other. And I don't think Reagan
Yeah.
ever like overtly tried to do that. Yeah, did he have racist laws? Yeah. Did he create a any massive income inequality? Yeah, absolutely. But I think Trump like overtly and intentionally just divided people, race against race, um, and like we saw like what happened today. And like as much as I hate
yeah.
Reagan, I don't think Reagan would ever like overtly clap his hands for like something that happened today.
Yeah.
No.
And
And that's why that bastard thinks he won. He at the end of the day, he probably realizes he lost the election, but that's why that bastard still thinks he's won another battle because he still succeeded in creating that divide that he wants for continuing his little cult.
yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Now the question becomes like, okay, like this is like those Trump's people, like they're not gonna go away. Trump's not gonna, he's still alive for however long, right? So now how are we gonna handle this? And because yeah, like he could run again. And he could even try something potentially even more dangerous. As long as his supporters have hope that he'll be president again, like they'll continue doing shit like that. Like this is only the beginning.
What's
So
scary
how
is it may not even be presidency if you drive them to that level of fanaticism where they
Right.
believe he may not be president, but they still have a glimmer of hope. You may be looking at a point where we are looking at a real civil war or maybe even an attempted coup. I don't want to go that far, but I mean, that's always a looming
well
possibility.
I mean today was an attempted coup. It was a
But
Yeah.
bunch of
this was on a small magnitude. Now you've got the support of the president publicly, or what will be hopefully our former president, and
Yeah.
that's just riled them up and lit the fire under them more. He's saying, "I love you, thank you." Now they really feel justified in their actions,
they
and that's
do.
scary. And we may end up with something bigger. Hopefully not, but it's a looming possibility. So the only way we prevent him from being running
So
for president again is a possible impeachment, and that's
And also addressing some of the economic or social issues that those people are so pissed off about that they would actually follow him in the first place.
yes.
Because otherwise it's going to happen again. Like it might not be Trump necessarily who does it again, but if you have those people who are still feeling disenfranchised by whatever it happens to be, um, and I mean it depends, right? Because if it's like, oh, there's not enough white people in this country, so I voted for Trump, like fuck that guy. Like we're not going to help you. Like do anything about that. Go fuck yourself. But like if it's something economic that like they drove them to Trump because they thought he would help do something and they believed that, all these people were stopping him from making America great, and now it's all over and blah, blah, like
No, man.
it really depends on the individual person in a way, because of like, I don't want to I can't really speak on it because I don't know enough Trump supporters to like have a idea of what they actually need or felt they needed from Trump. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm sure there are many people who like because I know like in 2012 like 2016 a lot of people who voted for Obama twice even voted Trump in 2016
yeah,
and well I guess it's hard to really point a finger because there are some people who are disillusioned with the system and like they think that like, the economy is not working for them ironically so they vote for like the billionaire like which is massive levels of irony but
yeah, because he's gonna get him a job, right?
but
Like,
yeah like
oh
like yeah,
Jesus,
but I guess man like I've spoken with Trump supporters who are from like lower levels of what we call class or and I've also spoken with Trump supporters who are like middle to upper middle class maybe even wealthy and the ones who are super wealthy like they just like the tax cuts like they know they know he's a dumbass but like
right?
they want the tax cuts and then there's like middle and upper middle class where like you'll talk to them and at first they say things like tax cuts and blah 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 but when you really like talk to them like they all of a sudden like yeah like we don't really like how the blacks are like protesting and we don't really like how like Colin Kaepernick is like taking a knee you know what I mean like I feel like this is like a majority of them like I
Yeah.
don't like how the media is always like, well, these are guys who are just disillusioned by the economy. Like maybe like a few of them are like that, but I feel like a majority of them are just dumbasses.
It's a
And-
combination. It's a
Yeah. The
combination
funny
because
thing with
honestly,
the funny thing with
go
sorry,
ahead.
I don't mean to interrupt. With like the Kaepernick thing, right? The whole reason he took a knee in the first place was because it was more respectful than just sitting on the bench. Like he actually talked to veteran friends of his before he did it. Like in the first place. But it became this huge talking point. Like the whole
Yeah.
thing's fucking ridiculous.
it's also selective because again, like they'll say, "Oh, you're disrespecting the flag by taking a knee," but the same people were like, they'll wear like they'll have like American flag towels and like lay on it, and like apparently like you're not supposed to do. I don't know. There's like
Well, flag code, it doesn't. It's kind of like depends on the state, I think. But for the most part, flag code it's like an actual flag you cannot wear
Right.
as clothing. Like, but if it had a flag like icon on it, that's fine.
yeah. And what's weird? Like obviously like it shouldn't be like a bad thing to like have like an American flag like on your house or like a shirt that has like the American flag on it. Like there was a time where like that wasn't really a bad thing. Like I would like I would like
Yeah.
there was a time when like I would look at someone with an American flag shirt and I wouldn't have an opinion on it. Like I'm like okay, he could be a decent person. Maybe he's just a patriot. Now it's just like unfortunately it's become something else now and every time I
But
see like a
is that manufactured though? Do you think?
I think one side well I think the right wing has they took the flag and they basically meant it took they took it and they're like this is our flag and what this flag represents is Trumpism. Like personally, I would like to see liberals take the flag back and be like, we are what it means to be American. Like we're open, we're kind people, blah blah blah. This is what we believe in. And because ironically, a lot of these people who have the American flag also carry the Confederate flag. And
Yeah.
it,
Well, yeah. The thing that's weird about it for me is like yeah, like conservatives tend to be more pro like flying the flag,
yeah,
but it seems like you also get a certain segment of like the liberal population who almost like hates the flag even before Trump. Like they viewed it as like this oppressive symbol of like America being the worst country in the world. So like it didn't it's like
Well, put it this way, dude. The people who like the whole America fuck yeah thing that existed before Trump, right? And
Right.
those are and the type of people who would like go out every single day and wear like the all American flag attire, American flag shirt, shorts,
Yeah.
tank, like
Yeah.
they
The
were all
vests.
from
The
those were all on
yeah.
one side. Like you'll never see a liberal wearing like a American flag vest. Even if he's like even
That's
if
why
he's
you
like
can't trust him, Sheen.
They're
like
not from America.
I just feel like it's become like a conservative thing. Uh, Unfortunately, um,
Right, but it also allows them to brand liberals as un-American for not doing it.
it
Also,
does. It does because
yeah,
now, like, because it's like one of those things. Like, it leaves us in a weird, like me in a weird spot because, like, I know, like, someone who's like, if I go to New York City and I see someone decked out in like all American flag apparel, like, I know he's 99.9% chance he's like a Trump supporting piece of shit. But I, at the same time, if I go up to him and be like, why are you dressed like that, he can easily just hit me back with like, well, what's wrong with loving your country? And
yeah.
what can I say? Like, it's like this weird like paradox. I don't know, like, how I don't know how to combat. It's like, what you're doing, but
How do you
I
feel
I,
about my American flag gear?
I don't know, man.
I'd
I've
say nothing's wrong with supporting your country. Something's wrong with supporting someone who takes a shit on that flag.
Right? Yeah, yeah.
That would be my response.
That's a good. That's a good one. Yeah.
indeed, and there was this really like fucked up picture in the Capitol today where like one of the people who broke in was literally carrying a Confederate flag. Like,
Oh,
yo,
was he?
yeah, like in the fucking Capitol. Like that is like, dude, that
Fuck.
has not happened ever. Even during the fucking Civil War, that did not happen ever.
Yeah.
Like, it was just one of those like that shit's gonna go. That picture, I'm pretty sure will be in history books.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
saw pictures of like one of the guys stole the podium, like part of the podium from one of the like the speakers thing. I saw like a guy at Pelosi's desk with his feet up.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh man.
that
that
guy's
guy's fucked.
serious.
That guy is
He's
so fucked.
Yeah.
serious jail time. Serious jail time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, all the
Yeah,
ones who weren't in masks and can be identified are probably going to be fucked in some way. But
indeed.
But they
Well,
were
guys,
fighting for America.
were they?
Yeah. In
dude,
their eyes, they were. In their
Well,
eyes,
yeah, I know, yeah.
but yeah, they're gonna. That'll be their argument. But
Oh God.
that's just something altogether. And as far
I
as
bet you there's already a GoFundMe to bail them out.
yeah, I would be surprised. And the funny thing is, Shaheen, bro, last point before we shift to, Shaheen makes the shift the conversation, or closes it out or whatever. It is so weird that a Confederate flag was in the Capitol because, again, where you guys live in Connecticut, it's probably not that common though. Where I live
Oh,
in
you'd
LA,
be surprised.
it's well, no, you'll see them. You'll see them. We have them here in LA too because, like I said, we have KKK members that live out here.
Right.
But
Yeah.
let me tell you, the level that you see them in other places is different. As you guys know, I went to the South and the Midwest this
Mhm.
summer, and I drove through Kentucky with my friend, and we literally have video of this. We're driving through Kentucky through the back roads where all these houses and properties are. Everyone has the goddamn Confederate flag. It's not like
Oh.
it's not
Okay.
like, oh yeah, like my neighbor from down the street has one, or yeah, that dude that just drove by and the random dude, the truck just has one. No, there are sections in Kentucky, and I'm pretty sure other states that I didn't visit where the Confederate
Like it
flag
was
is
more common than
all.
the American flag almost.
Yes, yeah,
Wow. Okay. I
no
didn't.
bullshit.
Jesus.
So
Wow.
that's the significance of that gives you the significance or the impact of the weight, or so to speak, that weighs down on the statement that Shaheen just made when he pointed out that the Confederate flag was in the Capitol. It's like, this is not like for especially in a place like DC that's even though we have a bunch of Republicans there, for the most part, we'd like to think of it from outside perspective as a more liberal place where
Hmm.
I visited DC. It's not like I go talk there
Yeah.
and all the conservatives talk down on
Yeah.
me. People tend to be chill and open minded for the
Me
most
and
part
Keith
in the
went down
city of
there two
DC
years ago. Yeah.
itself.
Yeah.
And to see a Confederate flag there, oh man, that's just that had snapshot written all over it. I wouldn't be surprised to see that in a history book somewhere in the
Yeah.
future.
Yeah, in
Dude, we got
Connecticut, it's like certain towns you won't see them flying at like someone's house necessarily, but like somebody might drive by with one on a truck,
yeah.
or at like town fairs they might be selling them.
Oh yeah,
Same.
yeah. For some reason, we have them
Like
at town
like
fairs.
I think it was the Hebron Fair. They like
Yep.
it's like
Yep. The
Confederate
Hebrew
flag
fair.
shirts, the Confederate flag like magnets, DK. It's like what the fuck?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Really weird. Really weird.
That flag
It's
needs to be
funny because
Stonewall
I never
Jackson.
saw any of them in like Oklahoma, and when I was in Oklahoma and Texas, that's like the only places I've really been down south. I didn't really see any. I didn't see any Confederate flags actually. When I was in Louisiana, I didn't see any. But I was also in New Orleans, so it might be a little different in the city. Um, but I haven't
Yeah.
really been to that part of the country.
I haven't. Yo, even when I went to Texas, I haven't seen it. So
Yeah, well,
yeah,
in Texas they have their own flag that they like a lot more than any other flag. So
true that. No, but a few episodes ago, we were talking about the social media, and it goes back to that documentary on Netflix, The Social Dilemma, and I think the guy was
Mhm.
saying like what we see going on is like a civil war eventually, and like today. After what happened today, yeah, again, like these people aren't going anywhere. If anything, they're just re-strategizing, and they, God forbid, they're going to do something more violent, and
Yeah. Well, that's the
and
other
this is
thing
all
with
because
being armed and stuff like that. Like when we talk about guns and that, when we were talking about that episode, like just those people view themselves as patriots today, and those are also the same people who are generally armed. So like, if you're gonna be like after stuff like that's happening, you can't really be anti-gun
It's
and
hard to
be
be
and be
anti-gun.
can't be intellectually honest and anti-gun after
It's
seeing
kind
shit
of
like
hard
that.
to be. I know it's kind of hard to be. I think about that comment that was made by someone on our own IG page, and
Mhm.
it's I think back to that, and I realize now that when you have people like this that exist that are armed and believe themselves to be patriots, and for some reason in their disillusioned minds see you as the enemy, they would probably
Mm.
have no remorse in putting a bullet in your head.
Oh,
What's
definitely not. Yeah.
what's to protect me from these people? If we have no way to bear arms, how am I supposed to be protected or protect my family from lunatics like this? But again, that's a topic again for I guess we could save that for another podcast. But that does go back to our old conversation, and it sheds a new light and a new argument on the whole gun dilemma.
Yep.
I'm a little frustrated just because like again like it just seems and I'm not speaking on behalf of Keith because I know Keith is like his own person, but it just seems like a lot of these like gun rights people, again, I'm for gun rights, I consider myself like a gun rights liberal or whatever, but um I I just seems like a lot of these overthrow the government tyranny with guns kind of people are actually, just based on what I'm seeing, very pro government tyranny if anything, and
It just has to be the right kind, Shaheen.
it has to be their kind of government tyranny. Like
Yeah.
they're okay, like they're okay with the fucking Congress overthrowing or like just tossing out the election that the people voted for, and that to me is just a tumor, like a massive, massive, massive tumor.
Yeah.
And
But
man,
it's funny too because the NRA, even though they get a lot of press coverage, they're actually one of the most hated guns right act like by people who own guns. A lot of them even hate the NRA. It's actually kind of funny. I didn't realize this until I actually like owned them and started conversing with that community more, because before that I was like, yeah, I have my gun license. I don't have any guns yet. I didn't follow any gun pages or manufacturers or anything, and I hadn't talked about it with anyone really. Now I have to a certain extent, and it's actually funny how much they hate the NRA, because the NRA talks a lot and has funding and all this other shit. They don't actually defend anyone's rights with the Second Amendment, though. Really, like they generally just bend over for whatever any government official gives them money for. So they're not even defending your rights if you think they're like helping you out. If you're sending them a membership, it's not doing shit.
Interesting.
They're pretty
Yeah,
fucking corrupt in their own right.
I mean, I wouldn't doubt that. Yeah, but damn. All right, guys. Well, we talked about a lot this past hour, and I guess we'll see you all next week. We honestly weren't planning on talking about this, but we figure like it's fresh in our minds. I've been glued on the screen today. I had a lot of work to do today, and I barely got anything done because of this. Fuck. So yeah. So I guess you'll see us all tomorrow. I mean, not tomorrow. You'll see us all next week. And if Keith or Farnoosh want to wrap it up or say your last words.
Nope, I'm all wrapped up and ready to tap out, brother.
All right, Weapon X.
I got my words. Invoke your 25th Amendment. Get this asshole arrested and impeached. Right. So, because I don't see any good reason why we shouldn't. But hey, I don't run things around here. I'm just a voice, but hopefully my voice will make a difference. Only other thing I got to say is I want to thank everybody for following us for 13 episodes so far.
No doubt.
Encourage everybody else to listen. If you have your thoughts and viewpoints on this, no matter what medium you're using to listen, you can hit us on the IG, hit us on the YouTube, leave your comments, your general thoughts. We tap back, and that's it. Everybody else, thank you for watching, listening, and like I said, use your best judgment, and let's do what's right for this country so that we have a better year moving forward.
And the vaccine is not microchipped.
You've been watching too much CNN, my friend.
It has nanites in it.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week. Peace out.
Peace.